बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय डॉक्टर अमी याज्ञनिक जी।
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, sir. I am glad that Professor Sinnhaji has come up with a resolution asking for certain requests to the government, but in the process, he has shown what post-independent educational institutions have given to this country. He is one of them. You studied in the Delhi University, that is what I have learnt, in English medium, post-graduation. All your facts that relate to several issues, from Tantra Vidya to historical events, to traditions, to philosophical traditions, to manuscripts, to colonial influence, to Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Puranas, to education before the arrival of British and after the British and Western education system, I think is the result of your library search and today Google search. This is what education does to a person, empowers a person, and you have done this resolution post that. I would like to add to your requests. I would have been very happy if you had put 3 prayers in your urge to the government. The first, you have said that we want a research foundation. Well, we are all, I think, will agree with that. We need research foundations in India. We spent little on research and development, sir. You have also asked for opportunities to be given to people, students at the district level, so that they'll come with traditional knowledge and so many other things. And in the last, you have mentioned that there should be an organized effort in the country for the attainment of Swaraj, of ideas, self-rule of ideas. I think this one request itself requires, I think, 7 days of debate. Self-rule given by Mahatma Gandhi, and to be understood in the context of the Swaraj given by the Mahatma to the country as well as to the world. So I think it would be 5 minutes for me would be very, very less in it in order to even touch the topic. But I think he forgot 3 main prayers in all this, or requests. They should have said, this house urges upon the government to provide access to education to the children of this country. Access, I think you have forgotten to mention in your resolution. To provide infrastructure, both physical and digital, because we are talking of online classes, we are talking of a pandemic, we are talking of a post-pandemic situation, and we are talking about children who have not been able to go physically to the school. Where schools are not there, children are waiting for the schools to come, and whether there are schools and they are shut, children are waiting for mobile telephony and digital infrastructure. So I think that is not here. Third, I would have been very happy if the resolution would have mentioned that there should be provision of Bunyadi Shiksha, Mahatma Gandhi's words, Bunyadi Shiksha. Where is that Bunyadi Shiksha in all this? How can you forget to write all these things when you are writing right from the Vedas to this day? And then, I think we are in an age where we talk about women empowerment, we talk of the girl child, we talk about laws we have brought in this house which empower women, whether within the domestic sphere, within the public spaces, or at workplaces, because we want our women to study and go to work, whether in government or unorganized sector, or organized sector, or private corporations, but we have not been able to provide safety and security. So that also law we have brought. But how do we provide safety and security to our girl children who want to go to school? I think these 4 points were missing in the resolution, in the prayer submissions. I think he should have added that. Now coming to whatever he has said, all this is already there, sir. The length and breadth of this country, if you have visited educational institutions, you will find libraries that are equipped with this knowledge. World over, renowned universities have huge sections on India. People have come to India, They have written about India, some people have criticized, but all that is in the framework of education. And that is where you find that there is healthy criticism also, and there are points which India should have done, India should not have done, India should have lived like this, India should not have lived like this. Sir, when we talk about colonial times, well, the times were different. I've heard philosophers' names being mentioned here, Antonio Gramsci, but then we have to look at that period when Antonio Gramsci wrote that, when he wrote about that hegemony. Are we today talking about cultural hegemony here? We are a democratic country. Today we are talking about a country which is one of the largest democracies in the world. Sir, we are faced with different kind of a hegemony, which I may not go because that is not the subject matter of this resolution. But I'm very happy that Rakesh Sinha ji has come up with this resolution, that by opening the doors of our minds so that we can think on these issues, that even if, supposing if I back this resolution and all this is prayed for is granted, how do we bring our children in the mainstream of education? Where is the infrastructure? Where are the schools? Where are the libraries? Where does a child go? If somebody is listening to me today, that person is not reading the newspaper or reading the Rajya Sabha debates. The person is watching me on YouTube. Sir, we are in the third decade of the 21st century. Rakesh Sinha ji, we are in a digital world. You said that Google search karo, aapko 1000 kitabein mil jayegi. So that is the era we are living in. So why can't we think in that progressive direction? You cannot do away with history. You cannot forget history. But then history is nostalgic. You can't live in nostalgia forever. You have to live in reality. So what does reality say? Reality says that yes, if you fall down today and something happens, you need to call a doctor. You don't call a traditional person who has traditional knowledge. You don't wait for 3 days for that person to come with that. You need instant, and you need instant relief. Sir, I am aware that history has to be a part of one's culture, history has to be a part of one's country, but you have to learn lessons from history. We need to equip our children, our students, our people to know where we have come from the time we were there in history. India is rich in culture. So I myself, when I was a student, I also got the benefit of lovely education. I had Gujarati, Hindi, English, and I had opted for Sanskrit. I was given a choice of these subjects. Where is the choice given today? You have some 15 subjects, but how do you give that choice? You need to go to a school. So sir, I would like to bring 3 main points in my submission here before my colleagues. Sir, 1, when we talk about India, we should not forget that 200 years of colonial rule. We fought, we got our freedom, and what did the visionary Jawaharlal Nehru ji said for education? That reasoning and rationality are the basis of all learning. Learning shapes and it plays the role in shaping India's education sector. And that is why, not restricted to only academia, but to economic ambitions and social contributions, your contribution to society. It was his vision for the youth of the country, and that is why we had IITs, IIMs, and AIIMS, AIMS. So today we take too much pride when somebody comes from abroad, heads the biggest corporation in the world, of Indian origin, having studied in IIT, India, but is heading a corporate company abroad. We take that pride. We forget that fact that we are unable to provide our students with the same kind of education where they can head corporates or companies which are abroad or whether they are in India. We should not forget that these institutions have given these children and these students to the countries abroad. All of them who come here are garlanded. They are given all kinds of accolades. Where have you studied? You studied in IIMs and IITs. But I don't know whether how much they should give back to this country. Jawaharlal Nehru had a vision, and that vision translated into these institutions. That is how our students are making a mark the world over. It's a small world. It has become a global village because of digitalization and information technology. That is what Jawaharlal Nehru ji did, not only in the education sector. Let's not forget Lalit Kala Academy and Sahitya Academy. We are talking about literature, we are talking about art and culture. These are the institutions given by our visionaries, Jawaharlal Nehru ji, we should not forget. Mahatma Gandhi ji said, Swaraj, self-rule. Today I write something on law and justice. I have to go back to Mahatma Gandhi. Local self-governance, local institutions, local dependence on your own self. That is what Mahatma Gandhi ji meant. Bunyadi Shiksha. That was the new kind of education he wanted. That you not only become an individual who is good, who believes in non-violence and truth, but also affects the vicinity. You should not live a life that disturbs others. That was what Mahatma Gandhi ji meant by education. And that is why his education system we have to take forward, that is Swaraj, that is self-rule, sir. Now coming to the decades later on, sir, we brought right to education in 2009. Put it in the constitution, this same house. Let every child study. Let every child empower oneself with education to know what is good and bad, what is truth from untruth. That is what 2009 right to education did. And that is where we stand high, tall, as far as our constitution is concerned. Sir, there is enough equipment in our libraries, the books. But I would like to bring to the notice of my lorgnate colleague here, sir, that what has happened to the education system. You may bring traditional knowledge. I'm for it. I'm for all the urges which he has made to the government. Yes, they should be there. We should not forget our past. We should not forget Nalanda. We should not forget Takshashila. We should not forget our Vedas. But what was the contribution? We have to learn whatever is necessary to move forward. We are in a scientific age and we should know what to take, what to understand from where we come, where we belong, what we are today. We are a product of our history. We should not forget that. But that is there. But what is the situation today? The new education policy also has been discussed in the, brought in the resolution. What is this policy? But are you going to implement it? Are you going to give all the children of this country education, basic education, so that they can move forward as good citizens in the country? Sir, 66.13% of students dropped out from primary schools in my state in the last 2 years. Last 3 years, sir, girl students drop out because 18,000 schools do not have classrooms, no physical infrastructure. Sir, when will you have books? When will you have these things you're talking about? Provided you have a physical infrastructure. So what do you have in mind to bring physical infrastructure? You want your children to study from home. You want them to have a mobile telephone. But what do you have done for these digital infrastructure? You put it all on the families. How are they going to move forward on this education? Sir, an example, a girl child had to drop out of school in my state because she could not travel to the higher secondary, that is for the 8th standard, which was 20 kilometers away. And what did the parents tell me? Ma'am, we want our daughter to study. We want her to move forward. But I cannot let her go alone in the bus. I am worried about her safety and security. I have to work in the fields. My husband has also to work in the fields. How do we trust safety and security? How do we let her go to study? That is the dropout rate as far as women and girl children are concerned. Sir, we talk about all this. We should not forget that when at an international forum, when I'm sitting and talking, it takes too much effort for me not to speak about dowry and dowry deaths. I feel bad that in my country, women are burnt alive for dowry. I don't take those datas. I don't speak about that. I feel bad. These are the issues, sir, when education comes in the mainstream. If you empower your children with education, they have access to the education, they will know what is this. These things were not there before in our history. When they will read our history, they will say, no, it was not there. How did it creep in? What made it creep in our system? Why did these things come which are not civilized, they are violent? How did they creep in our system? That is what education does. And if that education is so enlightening, what is the government doing? Why is it not giving priority to this? instead of giving priority to several other things. And that is what I think this resolution is missing, that provide access. Access is on the part of the state. State directive policies are in the Constitution. It's a separate chapter that the state has to provide these fundamental basic things to the people of the country. That is why the governments are there. That is why the governance model. And that is why if you cannot provide this kind of infrastructure, how will the children have access to these systems? The children and education, if they could understand and they could fight for the rights, where was the need to give them separate rights? Children cannot make up their minds. They cannot think. We have to think on their behalf. The government has to think on their behalf. The government wants them to be good citizens. And that is why we need to provide infrastructure, classrooms, benches, food, midday meals, that these are the books you will need, this is the school bag you will need. So this is access to education. All this can be a part of the library. If I can get a data from the government on the libraries that are existing in our schools, I'll be obliged. So many schools don't have libraries. Forget about books. We are fortunate that we can access the Parliament library. We can go to some big universities. He can go to Delhi University and get access to the libraries. What about the children who want to find out? Do they use WhatsApp and YouTubes to find out all that is not required for education? So this is the reason why our children are not able to get the education which is required. Moral science, civic sense, fundamental rights, their duties, what is their work, what is their behavior towards society, how society behaves with them. Sir, this is education. And even after all this traditional knowledge, if all these Vedas, everything, children will have access to them provided you give them to them. Let them read and let them decide how much is important to them, how much is valuable to them, what is the value of this education, and how will it take them forward. We are talking of going on the Mars. We are talking about the countries coming together, but we are not able to do this at the local level. So that was the last point I wanted to make. And one more point, sir. When we are talking about making our children the citizens, I think one thing which I have read quite a few Sanskrit scripts. I have also read Buddha and the Light of Asia by Jairamji. And I have seen several other books. I have read all these philosophers that have been named. But when it comes to bringing practicality to this, to bringing it in the practical day-to-day lives, the governance models, the public service arena, where we are there, we parliamentarians are there, other public figures are there, administrative people are there. So where do we translate it into action? How do we translate? It's very good to talk about the Roman Empire and something that happened in the 18th century, something that happened in the 19th century. But what is happening in the 21st century? Are we not feeling ashamed at what is happening to our children, to our girl children? They're feeling unsafe. The parents are feeling unsafe going out. Sir, this is what is required in the resolution. Access to education. Go back to the education model which Mahatma Gandhi ji said. We need Sarvodaya, we need self-rule, yes. But in the context of what Mahatma Gandhi ji said, you cannot twist it, you cannot change it, you cannot modify it. That is what should be done. I will definitely be very glad if Rakesh Sinha ji comes with a resolution where he brings this kind of urging to the government. I would definitely support him on such a resolution. Thank you so much.